the directing duo Alex and Steffen, and you are watching Eclectic Arts Media.
Yeah, I figured out, so, okay, I could produce this sound. This is so cool.
All right, look here. Hey, this is Alex Story from Cancer Slug. This is Cancer Slug, and you're watching Eclectic Arts Media. See, I said it right.
Going to somewhere like that and playing those places that all those bands that you listen to play.
Hello, Beer Bowling Cards!
Hello, my name is Richard Winslonaker. I play Hercule Poirot at Taproot and Murder on the Links, and you're watching Eclectic Arts Media.
And then I'm singing and I'm going, I'm not all by myself anymore.
Oh, whoa. Whoa.
I know.
But I find that I have the best fans.
Hello, my name is Kate Yeager, and I play Louise Seeger.
Hi, I'm Cayman Illica, and I play Patsy Cline.
And you're watching Eclectic Arts Media.
You're not everybody's cup of tea, and that's fine because I don't drink tea anyway. I'm a coffee drinker, so it's like whatever, you know.
You know, when you have limited time, you're just like, I'm gonna go out, I'm gonna go into the woods, I'm gonna film myself.
Aloha, I'm Jake Shimobukuro, and you're watching Eclectic Arts Media.
I think I forgot your question, but I went on a different path, but it felt great.
And I need to keep as much hair as possible because, particularly in Hindley Street, no one's got hair. You'd fit right in, Mark. So.
Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are in the world. I'm Mark Sugiyama from Eclectic Arts Media, based here in Seattle, Washington, and thank you so much for joining me on this Monday, the 11th of August, 2025. And I'd like to thank Hazel for joining me yesterday. It was great catching up with her. It had been just over 2 years since we did our last live stream, and she and I were discovering once we went offline that she had been a guest 10 times since I started doing all this a little over 5 years ago. So she's always a tremendous guest, and clearly, if you saw that interview, she has a lot of things coming up with her different band projects that she's a part of. She also has things that she does professionally that we didn't talk about, but she's super busy with all of that too. Speaking of which, coming up, here's the live stream schedule that I have. So the next one for sure is this Wednesday, the 13th at 5 p.m. Pacific. I have Peter Savad scheduled to join me, and Peter has been mixing the sound for Hindley Street Country Club, the super popular cover band from Australia. Peter's based in New York, so we're going to figure out how this came to be, if they just did it online or if he went to Australia or how this worked out. I have not really had somebody that does mixing in the recording world for a live stream, so I'm really curious and eager to get a chance to talk with him on Wednesday. And if you are a Hindley Street Country Club fan, I was just talking literally this morning with another member, and it looks like I have somebody scheduled to come next week. When I know that's confirmed, then I will be talking about that over my social media. And I also just talked with a guest that's in France. She's a wonderful guest, and she moved to France, I want to say over a year ago. She's been on a few times with me, and she just released a new single. And so she's had a lot of things in her personal life going on, really good things. And so we're going to be talking about her music, and that's up to me. I have to figure out what when I have time in my schedule with the 9-hour time difference to accommodate her. So there's at least a few more coming up. And again, once I know specifically what's going on, I will post everything as Eclectic Arts Media, one word, on my Instagram account if you want to follow me over there. And some of that information will migrate over to other social media platforms. And if this is your first time joining me on my YouTube channel, please do me a huge favor and hit the subscribe button as well as that little notification bell. And if you're over on the Twitch side of things, if you could follow me over there, that's where I started all of this virtual work back in 2020. And if you're really feeling generous, this streaming service costs me money every month. There's a PayPal me and a Venmo link in every live stream that I do, specifically on the YouTube channel. That's on the Twitch channel as well, but it's a little bit harder to find. Every dollar goes into keeping this going and changing the backdrops. And I mentioned the other day that my ring light's having issues, so I need to replace that. And anyone that knows me knows that I basically have always worked paycheck to paycheck, so I'm by far from being rich in terms of monetary. necessarily. And friends and family, I'm rich, but every other thing is kind of like, oh, I could use some help. But that's only if you're in a position to do so. I would never want somebody trying to extend themselves beyond their means. Okay, so happy Monday to everybody. So we went, let's see, Thursday it was international. Yesterday it was national because Hazel's over in DC, and then today is local, which is really fun. And so let's get to things. My guest today is a husband, father, military veteran, cyclist, and photographer, amongst many other things. He is launching his new media outlet, Pacific Northwest Music Photo, to bring coverage to a wide variety of artists and genres. Please welcome to the Eclectic Arts Media virtual studio, Mr. Mike Baltierra.
Hey, Mark, how's it going? Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, I'm doing great. Mike, how are you?
I'm good. I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little tired, a little sore. You mentioned cyclist. I did this past weekend was Fred Hutch's Obliteride, which is their annual fundraiser event for cancer research. And as you know, my son Zach is a 2-time stage 4 Hodgkin's lymphoma survivor, so this is a pretty important event to me. And I know plenty of other people who are affected by cancer, either personally or they have family members, friends, whomever that are affected by this ugly disease. So I went out and rode 100 miles this week to raise money for the Fred Hutch Society and their cancer research efforts. And it's a little bit of suffering that hopefully goes a long way. My suffering then what goes a long way to help generate some revenue to help Fred Hutch do their thing. So yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, I was aware of that you were doing the Obliteride, and we'll kind of talk about cycling in a second. I was going to ask you about what's recovery like anytime you do a big ass ride like that.
Well, so I did Seattle to Portland about 3 weeks ago, and I did that in one day. So it was about 200 miles, and luckily that ride wasn't too bad compared to Obliteride. Obliteride was 100 miles, 5,700 feet of climbing. STP was 200 miles with about 4,700 feet. So shorter distance, more percentage of climbing in a shorter distance. So I'm a little more beat up this time. So I had my my massage gun with me. So I took a good advantage of the deep tissue massage that Hyper Ice does for me. So today I'm not too sore. I'm just physically tired, but I'm not sore. I'm not stiff. So thank goodness for good recovery time. So plus being able to keep a consistent schedule for training, as well as having a really good employers currently and in the past who understand how important this lifestyle is to me and how I need to keep my health in check, as well as, setting an example for other people who are my age that, just because you're a little bit older doesn't mean you don't have time left where you can get physically active and make yourself feel much better and have a better outlook on life. I started riding about 5 years ago, and it's made a tremendous improvement in my life, and I'm really happy at the moment.
Well, that's great. Yeah, and I know, like I mentioned as I was promoting this live stream that we're doing today with my previous ones last week, that you definitely have a personal journey that you've talked about. It's on your YouTube channel for people that want to watch it after this one, that Mike talked about in 2020. I want to say it was like early May that you kind of had a realization of like something needs to change here, and you kind of go through all those steps, and you have many videos about different things you've done since then too.
Right.
With that, so.
Yeah, and just a quick Cliff Notes version of it. So basically, during the pandemic, so one thing you didn't mention is I'm also a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. I've been training Jiu-Jitsu since 2005, and because of the pandemic, everything got shut down. Didn't matter what it was, restaurants, gyms, whatever. Well, the gym I went to, they segued into virtual training, which I wasn't too keen on. So I just didn't do anything, and I just packed on a bunch of pounds because I didn't have an outlet to work out, and I was already big to begin with. When you and I first met, I was pretty heavy. I was pretty big, but the heaviest I got to was about 380, 385 or so, and my doctor had been hounding me for the longest time, like, dude, you got to take care of yourself, and I just didn't do it. And April 2020, she's like, now you're a full-blown type 2 diabetic, and I lost my job at the place I was working at, so I took my severance and I bought a mountain bike. Haven't looked back. In about 6 or 7 months, I dropped about 90 pounds, and I wasn't a type 2 any longer. And to date, I've lost about 120. So I hover around between 250 and about 260, depending on which day of the week it is, honestly. And to this date, 5 years later, most people relapse or they just get tired and they just stop training. But I have too many goals to obtain. I put out a lot of small attainable goals, and then this year I decided to dig deep and like swing for the fences. And doing STP in a day was one of them, and I plan on doing it again next year in a day. So that'll be my 5th time doing it. From what I understand, Cascade Bicycle Club, which is the company that puts on the big events in our area, if you do the STP 5 times, you're considered to be a Hall of Famer. So that's my goal for next year, is to do it in a day. Again, you don't have to do it in a day to be in the Hall of Fame, but that's just my personal preference. And I just proven to myself that I can do it. And one of the biggest things I learned during this whole cycling journey is that my threshold, my perceived threshold for being uncomfortable was about here, when it actually in reality was down here. And so I've learned to push through all these uncomfortable situations, and I know where my threshold for tolerance is at now. So I look at everything I've done in the past, and I just kind of like, wow, I just half-assed everything. I just could have done so much better. But hey, you live and learn. So now I know moving forward. So
yeah, well, thanks for sharing that. And it's interesting too that I have so many kind of questions about what you just talked about. But one of them is that you thought you had a perceived threshold, and then by doing the cycling, you kind of realized, no, my threshold is actually somewhere else, and that means the things I was doing back in the past, I could have been doing so much more, but I didn't. I said, oh, I've hit my roof, I can't do any more. It's like, no, you could have done more.
Exactly.
So I've kind of had the opposite experience, at least with the media outlet, that I kept comparing myself with these live stream interviews to 2021, because that's the year I did the most. And so when I did 22, 23 last year and this year, I kept thinking, man, I didn't do that many because I didn't hit that number over there. But it's kind of like that number was really an anomaly because I was working part-time, so I had more time. There's a bunch of other factors that were going on that allowed me to do it. And then as I worked full-time, I moved from Edmonds to Kenmore and all these other kinds of things. It's like, no, you're still doing plenty of live streams, Mark. You need to give yourself a little bit of a break and stop comparing yourself to that. So I have a little bit of the opposite, because I keep thinking, man, I need to be doing more. I need to be doing more, but then I always have to find balance with everything that I do. And I've definitely been out of balance in the past at times where it's just like, crap, I'm just grind. It's like, I'm going to hit a wall at some point. And sure enough, I did. And then I'm good for nothing for a while.
Right. Yeah, there's definitely times where you like after the STP, I took a week off just because I've been training consistently for 6-7 months. And I just got tired. And I set myself a goal to ride about 7,000 miles this year. And I just factored it in, take a week off. And then, okay, how many weeks are left in the year? Okay, I have to average 125 miles every week for the rest of the year to hit that 7,000 mile mark, because I'm at 4,600 right now. For some people, that's a lot. Some people, that's not enough. But everybody's different. And quite honestly, I'm only riding for myself. It's me against myself and not anybody else. And that's all that's the only person I have to, not necessarily appease, but that's the only person I have to be accountable to, and that's myself. So
that is exactly where I'm at least with the media stuff. If people over here are doing whatever, I'm happy for you. If you're in your lane doing this thing, I don't need to be like, well, I need to be doing more like that person and more like this person over here. It's like, am I happy with where I'm at? Then I know I'm good. And if I feel like I'm kind of dogging it, hey, I need to kind of get serious again and do a little bit more.
Absolutely.
So that's kind of interesting that from that kind of perspective, is that also what kind of segued into Pacific Northwest Music Photo, that you're like, hey, I need to kind of set myself up to a certain goal of getting back out there and shooting concerts of all types?
Yes and no. I had started PNW Music Photo.com primarily just to be a portfolio for my concert photography. I have Mike Baltierra photo a while ago, and I was combining just everything, whether it was portrait work, concerts, sports, it didn't matter. And I went to a workshop, and the person was like, you got really good photos, but the problem is I wouldn't hire you to shoot my wedding because I have really good pictures of brides right here. Then I hit the next image and it's a picture of Gene Simmons spitting blood and fire all over the place. That's really going to turn people off. So I decided just to separate them out. It wasn't until recently, probably within the last year, the main outlet I've been writing for started having some issues with their website, and I brought it to their attention, and they had other projects they were working on, which was great. I mean, they're big projects that are going to affect a bunch of people, So their focus and their priorities weren't with the website, that's fine. I understand that. So I gave them some time, hopefully that, they can steer that ship, forward, and hopefully things will correct itself. But the projects they were working on just took on a life of its own. So it kind of just got put on the back burner, and I couldn't wait any longer. And as you know, if you don't have good content, or if you don't have updated content on your website, then chances of PR people reaching out to you or approving you to do assignment work is going to dwindle. And so I decided, I can't wait around any longer. So I'm going to go ahead and do this on my own. I've reached out to other outlets in the area, and either a lot of them are shutting down, or they're just not getting as many hits to their sites. They're not getting a whole bunch of, assignments handed to them or shows handed to them anymore, or they're getting denied left and right. Or, I hate to say it, ageism. There's, a lot of them are run by younger folks, which is great. I'm happy that they're, experiencing what it's like to shoot from the pit. It's awesome. It's a good time. But, there's stuff that I want to do. And if there's an established site already, it's got multiple photographers and we're all fighting for the same gig, then it tends to be a little overwhelming. So I decided, maybe it's just time just to do this on my own. Just give it a couple, maybe a year or two, see how it goes. And all I have to lose is a few bucks and some time. So I'm giving it a shot. And luckily, the people I have been writing for, they were like, hey, we don't keep any of your content. You hold all the IP to it, or you hold all the copyrights. Do what you want. If you put it on your site, great. Just at least acknowledge the fact that you shot for us, which is what I'm doing. It's always been in my bio, the About Me section, that I've shot for this particular website. So there's not any doubt. So I hope it. And plus, it'll hopefully give me the opportunity to bring on some other people to help me out as well. Because when you're a one-man band, as you know, because you do quite a bit, it can be kind of you can hit, like you said, you hit that wall and you got burned out. So we'll see how it goes. I mean, it's gonna play it by ear, take it day by day. Hopefully, things will work out.
It really sounds like you're taking the right approach to it, especially with everything else that you've talked about already. And there's some other things we haven't even touched on that you're doing, and then to get back in there. And we both know the time commitment to shooting shows, even if it's some traveling, being at the show, editing, if you're going to be writing reviews to it, all of that kind of stuff. It's not just show up and take your pictures and then you leave and everything's fine and dandy. It's like no. There's so much else that goes on behind the scenes. And if you start stacking show after show after show after show, it's like, dang, I'm spending a lot of time here doing this stuff, and then I'm neglecting if it's family or other things, cycling or getting in the cage and resting on the mat and all those kinds of things. So it's like, where's the balance? And so like you said, kind of trying it out for a year or two, seeing how it goes. If I'm feeling it's working well for me and everything else I have going on, then then you'll be happy and keep it going. If not, then you can always kind of look at it and reevaluate and see what what's the best next move. So yeah, and something I can mention for folks that are watching this, that Mike's shot, and I mentioned to him before pre-show that here in Washington, I can't think of a venue that you haven't shot at in terms of the big ones. You've been at the Gorge, you've been at the Coma Dome, you've been at Climate Pledge, you've been multiple times. All these places, T-Mobile, you've been to, and every theater from the Paramount, Moore, Neptune, every club. So it's like your portfolio's got such a wide variety. Plus, it's been different genres of music all over the place too in those venues. So you got a lot to hang your hat on and a lot to pull from, so that when PR are looking at it, like, okay, not everyone's going to approve Pink, or not everyone's going to approve Zach Brown or whatever. So that definitely works in your favor, and then you can kind of say, yeah, what do I feel like? That's actually a good question for you. What are you looking to kind of shoot? Is it kind of like everything, or you like specific types of things, like smaller shows? Or you want the big shows, or just whatever comes your way?
Quite honestly, I don't have any type of preference. I learned early on that you shouldn't restrict yourself to a certain genre. I was shooting a lot of metal shows to begin with, and as you know, metal shows, it's just dark or red or blue, and you can't get really, unless they're like really big acts, like Kiss, for example. I mean, I wouldn't really consider them metal, but their lighting is awesome. But then you go to like the defunct Studio 7, or you go to El Cortizone, which are the hotbeds in Seattle, or were the hotbeds in Seattle for death metal, thrash metal, whatever. And then you go in there, and the lighting is not optimal, and it's a challenge. And so one of the first times I got to shoot someone other than a metal show is one of our cohorts, David Conger, got a hold of me, and he's like, hey, I like your work. I want to have you come do some stuff for me. And he would send me to the Washington State Fair here in Puyallup, and I would go shoot some R&B stuff or some. I do a lot of country shows. Country shows are awesome, not just because I'm not a really big fan of country music. I can appreciate it. I can appreciate the work, the time, and the effort put into it. But the production value is amazing, and the crowds are awesome. They really get into it, and they love that they're all hams. They want their pictures taken, and so that's one of the things that I try to keep an open mind when it comes to, like, hey, we have this artist coming to town. We may want to do some interviews, or we may want to do a pre-show write up. Would you be willing to do it? And so I've been. I kind of I wouldn't say I was really cherry picking a whole lot of stuff, but there were times where I got overwhelmed with just PR people just flooding my mailbox. Like, we want this, we want that, we want this. And it's just like, pump the brakes, man. I need some time here. But quite honestly, some of the best shows I've been able to shoot were just on a whim. PR people just messaged me, like, or I would message them like, hey, I want to shoot Pink. Can I get a review ticket or a photo pass? And when I get told yes, I'm like, whoa. This is awesome. This is a great show. So it doesn't matter as long as it's relevant, and as long as it's in a decent venue, because there's some venues I won't go to. I really must love the band that's playing at El Corazon for me to go there. It's not that I don't like El Corazon. I just don't like the area that it's located in. And it's just kind of sketchy. And I just don't feel comfortable going down there by myself, even though I'm a big guy. I know I can handle myself, but yeah. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't, as long as I have the availability to do it, and I think it's something that I want to be interested in, I'll go do it. So, man, I even shot the Backstreet Boys, dude. That was an awesome show.
Yeah, no, I totally understand what you're saying, because I know, like, when I was in the thick of things, maybe like 2018, I was really getting to the concert photography. That sometimes I'd be getting emails sent to me. I'm like, who is this person? I kind of look into it, look at some stuff on YouTube. So, oh, that's kind of interesting. So, and yeah, depending on the venue, yeah, I'll go take a chance on that. It turns out, well, like, one of the best concerts ever that I've been to, kind of a thing. And then, yeah, some of the other ones, and since clearly I go to El Corazon and Funhouse and all that kind of stuff. But like this year, I haven't shot anything there on purpose.
Right.
I go there and I do my write-ups, and then on one show, Mike Savoya was there, so he kindly offered, said, Mark, if you want some photos to go with the review, just let me know. So he sent over some photos. I just credit him, and it's all nice partnership. And then other ones, I just was really upfront with the PR person. So I'm just here to do a review of the show, and I'll just take photos from you or whatever you have to send me, because I just don't feel like shooting the show in this particular venue. I'm to the point where I've always been an interviewer all the way back to 2011 when I started all of this stuff, and then reviews are a close second. Concert photography is a third for me. So it doesn't float my boat that if I don't get a photo pass but I get a review ticket, I'm okay with that.
Sure.
Because that's what I do. And clearly, like, when I started doing all the theater and musical theater and opera and ballet and all this stuff over here around 2018, I remember some of the people that we know in the media world here, photographers, they hadn't seen me in like a year. They're like, Mark, where have you been?
Right.
I was like, I found another toy over here that I'm interested in. So
yeah, you found another niche. Yeah.
Yeah, and they treat me really well. And some of the BS that goes on with the PR folks in the music part, they're not doing that to me with all these other people. So why would I go back to this when I'm getting treated so well over here? And now I've kind of found a happy medium of, I love doing the concerts. That's where I start. I mean, we're both huge music fans to begin with. So I don't ever want to neglect that. But yeah, I mean, some of these people, and I'm not going to name names, I don't know how they keep their jobs. I really don't.
Right.
If I ever worked a professional job and I wasn't getting back to people in a timely manner, like repeatedly, I'd be at least warned, if not fired.
Right.
That's just how it works. But the system is just like, well, this is how we work. And I'm like, well, I don't work like that. I don't do like day of approvals. I used to say yes to that stuff, and now I don't say yes to that stuff, no matter how bad I want to shoot it. So, but that's just a principle thing with me. That's just strictly my deal. But in the past, I was like, I just, whatever came through, and they said, yes, I'll rearrange everything, and I'll drive down from Edmonds to get to wherever. I'm like, this isn't valuing my time.
Yeah, they'll tell you at 4:00 in the afternoon. Yeah, you're up where you're at, and you have to be in Tacoma by 6. It ain't gonna happen, dude.
Exactly. And I've even sometimes explained to people that I don't live in Seattle proper, or I don't live Tacoma south of Seattle, or what if they're not, they don't understand the distances here and how
Right.
bad how bad the traffic can get.
Yeah, especially when they say, "Oh, we have an artist coming to Seattle. It's going to be at the Gorge." Oh, that's not Seattle. That's 3.5 hours away. I'm sorry. But no one wants to go to Spokane.
You know exactly what I'm talking. We've all dealt with these kind of things.
Yeah,
it's just
exactly.
part of when you're kind of in there starting to do it, and you kind of learn the ropes and talk to other media and all that kind of thing. And the more experience you get, the more you kind of figure out what am I okay with and what am I not okay with. And which actually brings up a good point that so at least here locally in the Seattle area, when did you start getting out to the clubs and start shooting and doing all that kind of work? What year was that?
It's probably so we talked about my son Zach earlier, and that was in 2015, probably about 2016-ish. I would go over to Louis G's when I first started getting into photography, just so I could see if I can do it. And there was one event that they were having, it was like a Love Louis G festival or something going on, and all the big local bands were playing, like Mechanism and Window Pane and System 7, and so I went and shot a bunch of photos, and then I sent them over to Greg at Seattle Music Insider. I'm like, hey, I would really like to get an opportunity to shoot some shows. And he saw my work, and he's like, you've never shot shows before? I'm like, no. And he's like, okay, well, you're going to be sticking with the smaller acts. I'm like, okay, I'm fine with that. And so my first assignment with him was actually at Studio 7. I shot Ghost Ship Octavius, and it was for their video shoot. And I had a great time. It was awesome. So it was probably about it was in 2016. So started shooting in 2016, and then my first big show, which was a couple weeks later, I got to shoot Kiss out in Kennewick, and I couldn't believe I got approved for that. And it's just been steamrolling ever since. There's times I get denied, which is fine. That I just look at it as like, okay, and I got a free evening to do what I want now. Whereas some folks who are in the photography world, they just get salty. Oh, I can't believe I got denied. I've shot them 100 times and I can't believe. Well, you can't win them all. And last thing you want to do is talk trash online, because you're going to get blacklisted. You'll never shoot them again, ever again. So just keep your mouth shut.
There's a story that I heard about this because I got to shoot Tom Jones at the Paramount, and there's like, I believe 2 of us there, and I'm not going to say who, but another photographer in the area who does great work, a great guy, don't get me wrong, but he on social media was kind of kibitzing about why he didn't get approved for that show. Mm-hmm. And I'm kind of like, well, I did. I don't know why you didn't, but it's kind of like one for the little guy, because I was I was not shooting these huge shows that this guy gets to do. So it's like, like the approach should be, okay, well, I just can, do something else tonight then. The next big show is going to be next week or whatever. Right. But like in your case, since you started shooting that the small local festival down at Louis G's, have you always been a photographer, or did you have to just kind of learn and then just tried it out, or where's your background with that?
So my dad was a photo head. He got into it, and from what I understand, I'll probably be mistaken when I try to think about the story, but I remember him shooting a lot of pictures of my brother, sister, and I when we were growing up. And he bought a lot of gear when he was stationed in Japan, from what I understand, when he was in the Air Force. And so when I was in grade school, he decided, so there's an organization called 4-H, and it's primarily known for agriculture. And well, he decided he wanted to be a photography instructor. So we would actually have 5 to 15 adolescents at our house, my age, which was probably about 10 to 12 years old at the time, learning how to do photography. And he critiqued their work. And my dad was such a nerd when it comes to photography, he actually turned one of our bathrooms into a dark room. So we developed our own film at the house. And my mom got a little upset about that. So that kind of went away after a while. So that was kind of like the seed that got germinated into what I'm doing today. I took a lot of photos, throughout high school, and some through college a little bit. Kind of put it off while I was in the Marines, but then when I started having children, got back into it. And then once my son Zach went through all his cancer treatments, I'm like, you know what? I'm not gonna let the work rat mentality, the rat pace, dictate my life any longer. So Scott Kelby actually had a good comment once on a podcast where he said most people get into the creative realm after they had a traumatic event happen in their lives. And that's exactly what kind of happened with me. And so just went over and bought a palette camera over at Costco. You know, by that I mean you walk into Costco and they had all the Canons or they had all the Nikons. You had to pick one or the other. So I bought a Nikon and just went with it, and just started deep diving into trying to get better. And luckily it's worked out. And I'm really fortunate. Been really, really lucky to have met some really good people on this journey so far. And I try my best not to burn any bridges. I know I've upset a few people. That always happens. That's just life. But for the most part, I've kept in really good rapport with, especially with the PR folks. I reached out to a few of them to let them know, like, hey, I'm starting my own thing. And they're like, yeah, let us know when you go live and we'll start feeding you some stuff. Mostly it's going to be like record reviews or CD reviews or video reviews or whatever, which is fine. You know, stuff to listen to. I'm in the car and just write a review on it later, but that's okay. You got to start somewhere. So,
yeah, no, that's great that you have this this background through your father in photography. In my case, I mean, my dad took pictures and everything, but he was not like a schooled photographer by any means, and neither was my grandfather. But I always had an interest in it, so I was kind of taking pictures for fun. I'm sure I have some of those floating around here somewhere.
Sure.
But then I was working with doing model photography for like almost 10 years. But even then, that was still for fun because I didn't even have an SLR at that time. It was I was like a bridge camera that I was using. But then luckily, that experience helped me when I moved over to concerts. So at least I knew the camera, I knew kind of the settings, all that kind of thing. That I wouldn't have had I not done that stuff with all the models. Of course, the difference is that, with bands, as you know, depending on the lighting and if it's metal or something, they're banging their heads and they're moving and they're going crazy. And that's very different than someone who's posing over here and I can control the light. So it was definitely a learning curve. And I was just trying to get an interview. I still remember that. I was trying to get an interview with Doyle Wolfgang von Frankenstein.
Nice.
Yeah. And that was it was 2015 because I was doing other interviews prior to that, but that was going to be my first video interview there at the location, which was El Corazon. Mm-hmm. And after I did that, the tour manager was like, hey, Mark, how many people for the guest list? And I'm like, I was just going to buy a ticket. I wasn't even thinking, of this kind of stuff. And she said, no, you just did the interview. I'm happy to put you on the guest list. So I had my friend with me. So I said, well, I guess 2, please. And then she was saying, well, do you want to shoot the show? And I'm like, what do you mean shoot the show? I wasn't planning on doing that. I didn't have any gear or anything with me. But that planted a seed in my head for the next one. I'm like, well, maybe I should look into doing this concert photography thing. And I shot a couple shows in 2015, but I don't really look at it as like that's when I started. For me, I started in the summer of 2016 when I borrowed my dad's SLR. That was like a real basic entry thing. It had the wrong lens and everything, but I was like, this is better than what I got. So can I use this? And just kind of kept looking at YouTube tutorials and everything else and just trying to get better about the concert photography aspect. And in the meantime, how do I get better at doing my interviews? How do I get better at writing my reviews? And all the music that was coming in at that time, I was getting all kinds of stuff in my inbox. And I finally had to tell people, it's like, I'm happy to maybe do pre-show pieces, but if you're giving me files of music, I have way too much coming in. So I don't want the expectation that if you send it, I'm gonna review it. I will have to let you know I can review this or I can review that. Same thing happens now with the films that I get. There's just too many sent to me. So I'm like, I'm going to pick this one, or I haven't done something for you for a while, so this one looks interesting, blah, blah, blah. We all have our own individual journey that led us to this media stuff, especially with concerts. And everyone's different. I'm trying to think, because I do remember talking to you at Studio 7, and it probably was 2016-ish. But I don't remember what the show was, but I just remember we see the same faces. If you go to especially metal shows, oh yeah, this guy's going to be there, or this gal's going to be there most likely, blah, blah, blah. Same thing if you're covering pop stuff or maybe country stuff or jazz. We just kind of know. And every now and then you get these ones like, okay, there's a mix of everybody kind of there. I know some of you, but I don't know who you guys are over here.
Right.
And yeah, like you also said, I think the intention is always to, put your best foot forward. You try to keep relationships there. You try not to burn bridges, but yeah, sometimes it just doesn't work that way. I know there's a few people that probably, don't want anything to do with me over the years. But that's a small piece. The bigger piece over here is like, no, we love working with Mark. So it's like, okay.
Right.
And
yeah,
I wasn't,
exactly.
yeah. And I wasn't trying to be a dick.
Right. No, some people, sometimes, mostly it's over due to lack of communication, or just communication was just misunderstood. Or there's times where I've only met maybe one or two people who were just absolutely terrible people, and I just didn't want anything to do with them. So I just walk away. I don't need the riffraff. I'm too old for that. And, just, it's funny here. I'm too old for that. I just don't want any negativity in my life. I just try to push all that away, and I don't need anybody bringing me down. And so I try to surround myself with good people, and whether they're good to me to my face and terrible behind my back doesn't really matter. I don't care. I just let the work speak for itself, as you do too. I mean, you let your interviews, your movie reviews, your play reviews, your whatever you're working on, you just you just put it out there and let the world get at it, and whatever happens behind the scenes is no one's business, really. So I just, yeah, exactly. It's just a matter of just being cool with other people and just making sure you don't, just piss off the wrong person, because it takes one time for that tour manager to hear how much of a jerk off you are in the photo pit. You'll never come back to that show ever again. So.
Yeah. And for anyone watching this now that wants to be, a concert photographer, or you're just starting out, Michael brings up a really good point about there's a certain kind of spoken or unspoken etiquette in the pit at times. There's certain things that you should be doing and maybe not doing. And some of it, trial by error, you kind of learn, read the room, look at the people around you, see what they're doing. Oh, they don't have, 2 bags, and they're not putting their camera bag on the stage or whatever. Okay, maybe I shouldn't do that. Maybe I should go down over here, all that kind of stuff. And I had, I made mistakes too. I remember early on, God, that was probably 2016-ish. I knew that we weren't supposed to put like our photo passes online on social media. That was kind of a no-no. So I tried to blur out what it was or whatever, but I just was so happy that I got this photo pass I wanted to put up. And Neil, who sent me a DM, and he was very polite about it, saying, man, you can do whatever you want to do. I just kind of gave you a heads up that this is kind of frowned upon. Especially if the people associated with that band find out that you posted this. And so I'm like, I immediately took it down. I mean, I just think, okay, you've been doing it a lot longer than me. And so I'm going to not even try to skirt around this and get rid of it. I was up front with one of the PR people that I had gone through the opening band to shoot the headliner. And I said, I just want to let you know, this is what I did. And if you don't ever want to work with me again, then that's fine. But I want to be upfront about it. And he was really polite about, getting back to me and Mark, just let me know next time that you want to shoot this show. And I said, well, I was trying to get a hold of somebody. I didn't know it was you until after the fact. So, but I just didn't want you thinking that I was trying to, do things the wrong way on purpose when I couldn't find who the actual contact was. And this was like in 2016, again, when I was kind of starting out. So you live and learn. And again, from talking to other people in the pit, you find out pretty quick, like what you should do, or even just like contacts, who's the person for this band now, because it changed from last year. All these little variables that happen. And I laugh at people that get so upset about things and what we do, because I'm 55. I just turned 55 in June. I'm a grown ass man. I'm middle aged. I'm whatever you want to call it. I'm like, I can't be bothered by your junior high antics. It doesn't matter to me. Mark, what do you think about so and so doing this? Oh, hey, that's great for them. Are you trying to get a rise out of me or something? I don't care. I'm happy for people that are getting opportunities. No more power to them. Because I've gotten plenty of opportunities too. I'm so grateful for things that I have and the relationships that I've built over the years. So there's room for everybody at the table. So the way I look at it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be PR folks. It doesn't necessarily have to be the band. I mean, look at places like the Showbox, for example. They have the same security guards at both venues. And if you get in good with them, they make sure they cover your ass when something crazy goes on. They'll tell you like, hey, you don't want to do this because the pits are whatever. The same thing with dealing with merch people. Some of the merch people, they may be locals, dealing with the big acts, and You'll see them repeatedly at either Climate Pledge or Tacoma Dome or whatever the case may be. So yeah, it's just a matter of being cool with everybody and making sure that if they are cool with you, you just return it. I mean, there's never been a time where I've gone to a show and had a PR person or a tour manager just go off for whatever reason. And I don't know why people get upset with those who are working those jobs. I mean, they're out there making a buck just like you and I are, or they're just out there because they enjoy what they do. So I don't understand that mentality of the entitlist mentality either. It's just you're there because someone trusted you to show up to a show with a camera, and they asked you to do 3 songs, and they gave you a ticket to enjoy the show just for being there. Or sometimes you may get lucky, you may get paid, or you maybe like Savoya get put on a band's payroll and being able to do all the cool gigs. Because I tell you what, man, there are a lot of people who are like, man, I wish I was that guy. And I'm like, well, you know what? He also worked his ass off for this too. So he deserves every accolade and every gig that comes his way. And if you want to look up to him like I do, that's great. I remember I met him at a Megadeth show. It was Gigantor at the Shower Center here in Kent. And I said, one day I'll see you in the photo pit. And he's like, yeah, everybody says that. And then a couple years later, I'm like, hey, dude, remember me? But yeah, he's a super nice guy, and he's really good. He's a real good resource if you need some information. I mean, at least he is to me. I don't know how he's been to you, but I don't think he'd ever be a jerk to anybody, because he seems too much like he's too much of a he's a sweetheart. I love the guy. He's awesome. So is his wife Stephanie. She's great too. So
yeah, no. Mike is somebody that I knew as a fan before I started shooting shows. And exactly. I remember being at, I don't know what that show was, but I was at Studio 7. They actually had a little bit of a photo pit that they had made for whatever show we were at. And I had just interviewed Todd LaTorre from Queensryche, who he's totally tight with that band, shot all their promo stuff for the first album with Todd. And he turned around to me and said, hey, man, I love that interview you did with Todd. And I'm kind of like, how do you even know who I am? I'm nobody. And the fact that he did that, then I was telling him, kind of gushing, probably fanboying about his work, and I've been a huge fan and all that kind of thing. And every time I've had a question, comment, anything, he's more than happy to answer things. He does not guard his craft at all. He's more than happy to help you. He's always got something funny to say, or a story from when he covered this band 10 years ago, or when he's shooting with film. And just like, plus he grew up in this area, so we have that in common since I'm a local too. He's one of those people that, God forbid something happens to him, the fan base, the KSW fan base, us, the media people, the bands that he knows, I mean, it's going to be truly a day of mourning if something happens prematurely. When they talk about like when a scene loses somebody, he's one of those pillars in our scene.
Right.
Yeah, and I have nothing but great things to say about the guy.
Yeah, I've learned a lot from him. You mentioned Neil earlier. I've learned a lot from Neil also. One thing I do like about Neil is he doesn't sugarcoat anything. He's a straight shooter. You know how he is. And same with him. He knows a lot of people too. And I just find it kind of amazing and kind of funny that people are like, oh, I can't believe these guys get such great gigs. And how do they do? My work is better than theirs. Or you hear every excuse in the world. And it's just like, you know what? It's just like anything else, man. You got to present yourself the way you want to be perceived by everybody. If you come off as an ogre, no one's going to want to work with you. It doesn't matter how great your work is. If you are, if you're the best photographer in the world, but you're a complete jerk off, no one's going to want to be around you. Just go to a show with an open mind, have a good time, let your work speak for itself. And sometime, one day you'll get lucky and someone will call you. And if it doesn't happen, don't worry about it. I mean, come on. It's just, we're here for a short time. There's no use in burning off negative energy over stupid stuff you can't control. So
I totally agree. For me, it's always glass half full. It's always about being grateful for the opportunities that have come my way. I'm well past, if I was 22, maybe I would have some jealousy or whatever, envy of other people's positions. But I'm well past that.
Right.
And I've had, and I'm sure you've had too, that, as you start getting more established, people will DM you, email you, talk to you in person about just kind of picking your brain. I want to do what you do, or how did you get started? Or I just shot a couple of shows. And I'm happy to talk to people about, how my journey ended up where I'm at. Mark, how did you end, shooting or, writing reviews of the opera? Is that something you always had an interest in? No. You couldn't have paid me to cover an opera, back in like maybe 2017. But I can kind of tell these steps that happen, and also with the communication directors that have finally approved me for some of these things, what it took. And just like you said with Mike and Neil, and we know this, David, Sonny, and any of the people that are like, those people in our area,
right?
They busted their ass and they put in the work.
Quit looking for. And the great thing is, none of them have any egos. They're not megalomaniacs. They're more than willing to share their experiences with you. And sometimes they get harder to get a hold of because they're super busy. But for the most part, they're like, yeah, this is what you need. This is what you need to do. This is what you don't want to do, and this is what you definitely don't want to do. So I'm just really grateful that we have met I've crossed paths with some really awesome people. And there's a handful of people that were not so cool, and they're not really shooting shows at the moment anymore. So they kind of weeded themselves. But yeah, for the most part, and then also being cool with like even the band's established media person, like they're touring photographers, getting good with them, then they'll hit you up when they're in town next, or they'll repost your stuff for you. So that's happened a few times too. So even a little bit of exposure always goes a long way, I guess. So.
Yeah, and I agree, and I've told people that you're basically your own ambassador. So for how you approach everybody that you interact, including the fans, we see the same faces at these shows all the time.
Yep.
And if you're just like a standoffish jerk, even if you're like standing in the pit before the band kicks off or whatever, and somebody drops something from behind the barrier, hey man, can you grab that for me? If you say no, or you just ignore them or whatever, it's kind of like, we're all fans here.
Oh yeah, that reminds me of some stuff that I've seen in the pit where like Megadeth opened up for the Scorpions down in Tacoma a while ago, and Klaus likes to throw drumsticks out in the crowd, and one of the drumsticks didn't quite make it to whomever he was throwing it to, and it bounced out of their hands. And there were some people in the photo pit. I don't know how they got in with cell phones to take, I don't know how they got their credentials, but they picked up the drumsticks and kept it for themselves. I'm like, dude, that's uncool. Whereas, I went to a Shinedown show in Yakima, and In This Moment was opening, and Randy was throwing out a bunch of guitar picks, and there was a bunch of kids out in front. Didn't quite make it. So I grabbed those picks and handed it off to them. They're like, oh my God, you're so cool. I'm like, no, because I would have been super bummed if my favorite band threw me something and this photographer, poached it, so to speak. So, it's, you can be a fanboy all you want, but you're there to shoot a gig. You're there to do a job. You're not there to get stuff that, because you got the best seat in the house for 3 songs. Those fans are going to remember you, and then they're going to see you in the parking lot. And there's going to be some bad intentions because you stole a guitar pick or a drumstick or something. I don't want that to happen. So.
And all these things that we're talking about, I remember one of the first people I saw grab picks from the pit and just do this over his shoulder. It was Neil. He was just, anytime, I can't remember who the band was, but they were throwing out a bunch of picks, and most of them weren't getting to the fans at all. And I told this story pretty recently on one of my other live stream interviews where I was shooting Michael Schenker at the Neptune. And because he had like 4 different lead singers, because it's like a whole era thing for that tour, we got to be in the pit for an hour.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, because they wanted to make sure we got shots of every singer that came out.
That's awesome.
So I'm sitting there, and Michael's somebody who doesn't flick picks. But one of them, he's playing, and it happened to slip off of his hand and went down into the pit, and then he grabbed another one and started playing, and there was nothing else down there. And I saw it from way on the other end of the pit, because I wasn't shooting at that time, I was just kind of watching. But I saw that pick fall down there, and I'm a huge fan of his. He's my second guitar influence ever. So I'm like, okay, let me go over there and grab this thing. And I'm not going to lie, there's a slight chance that I was thinking, I should just stick this in my pocket. But nah, don't be a dick. You just got to be down here for an hour shooting, one of your favorite guitar players. But then trying to figure out which fan to give it to was so hard, because they're all like, oh, right here. Right here. And I'm like, dude, here you go. I'm just going to give it right to you. And then people are like doing this to me. Can I get the next one? I said, if there is a next one, if I'm still here, I'll be happy to grab it, kind of a thing. Because as you said, we're there to do a job. And these guys, it means so much to a fan. Just like, if I was on the other side of it and there's a pick that Michael Schenker just dropped, hey man, can you get it for me?
Yeah.
So I totally get it. And I have to just make sure that I don't lose sight of that. I don't think I do, especially these days.
Yeah, because those people pay a lot of money to be there. You and I, we don't pay anything to be there, and because we're just fortunate to be able to get a photo pass, sometimes a review ticket, and we can stay and watch the show. And if it's a small club, it doesn't matter. If it's a big venue, it doesn't matter. Those people, they work to make the money to go buy that ticket to be at that show. So if anything comes flying my way, I'll give it. The first person I'm going to look for is someone younger. Like if parents bring their kids to the show, I'll throw it their way. If not, then the females that are in there, because they put up with a bunch of riffraff at shows. Just give it to them. It's no big deal. But for the most part, it doesn't belong to me. It belongs to the fans. They get first crack at it. So, and if after the show and they clear out the venue and there's picks in the pit afterward, I'll go pick those up. But that chances are pretty slim nowadays. So, but yeah, just fans come first.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, and even like, and we both know this too, that I was shooting, that was Baby Metal in like 2019 at the Paramount. Mm-hmm. And there's a part where their lead singer takes off a Kasuni mask and throws it to the fans. But at our show, a fan hit it and went back onto the stage. And one of their people, one of their members of their team was down in the pit with us, a Japanese guy. He was looking for it, like really frantically trying to find it so that they don't step on it or mess up their dancing or whatever. I saw it, so it's just one of those things, getting his attention and doing this, and it's like it's right there. And then as soon as he managed to grab it off the stage, he's doing this to me, thank you. And it's like, we're all there to try to, we all have a job, and we're trying to make sure that everything goes as smoothly as possible. And that guy clearly had a job to grab that mask if it doesn't make it to the fans.
Exactly.
And and again, most of us understand that there was, I think that was Cradle of Filth. I was shooting a show with, and Neil was in the pit and a couple other photographers that I recognized their faces. But God, there was this one guy that he was a younger dude and he was super spazzy. I don't know what he was on or doing. He was just like running around like a squirrel. I mean, in the pit. And I remember Neil even leaned into me. He's like, "Who's this spaz?" He actually said that. I'm like, "Dude, I don't know." And then I saw that guy out in the crowd. He was doing the same thing through the bars and everything else. Just like he was just frantic with his gear. I'm like, just calm down. One, you're not even supposed to be shooting now because we're done with our 3 songs. But you're going to run into people. You're going to do all kinds of stuff, including us when we were in the pits. Like, man, just, you know how it goes. You do your spot and you move. You do your spot, you move. You don't hog anything for too long, so everybody gets a chance to have like the prime spots, the sweet spots.
Right.
But that guy, man, he was just frantic.
Yeah, it's funny you mention that because some other photographers get upset when they go into the photo pit and their fans pay to be in the pit nowadays. They pay a lot of money to be up for that VIP experience, to be in the photo pit. I don't know if you shot King Diamond when he was at the Paramount the last time he was in town. But yeah, there was like 20 people to our right, 20 people to our left, and like maybe 5 or 6 photographers. And there was a couple of photographers in there getting super salty. And I'm like, hey, man, these people paid a lot of money to be here. If they want to get in my way, I don't have a problem. I'm taller than most of them, so it's okay. But they paid a lot of money to be here. It's Kiss, especially. Kiss fans pay a ton of money to be at the shows. And I remember when they played at the Tacoma Dome, Kiss has got that big old, kabuki sign that comes down, that big old drape that comes off right before they jump into their first song. And they have like the road crew just grab it and run out the pit. Well, they were like, well, they're going to run out the pit and then all the fans are going to go in and then you get to go in. So it was, I don't remember if it was like Detroit Rock City or Shout It Out Loud was one of the first 2 staple songs they always play, but it was like more like, instead of the 2 songs, it was like a song and a half, which was, it's all right. It's Kiss. Everybody's seen Kiss 100 times, but you can't complain about it because these people are paying a truckload of money to be down there, and I want them to have a good experience, and I want to have a good experience. So, yeah, it is what it is, man. So just go there, do your thing, get your shots, write your review, go home. No big deal. So these people, they don't get to see Kiss all the time, and we're not going to ever get to see them again. So if they want to spend their life savings meeting Gene Simmons, that's awesome. Good for them. I'm not going to get in their way. Then let them have a good time. I mean, I just had the really good experience of being able to take pictures of these guys before they called it quits. So
it's a really good point that I think both of you and I and several other people that we know locally, that we understand what the fans have paid, what they've done to be, especially in those pit areas now. Mm-hmm. That's the premium thing, the number one thing, especially for a lot of the bigger ones. You don't even get to meet the band. It's that you're getting this spot right up front where you want to be on the rail. And if I'm in your way or if I'm somehow doing whatever, I'm trying to work with you. I'm not trying to work against you as a fan. And as long as you're not, throwing shit at me or something.
Yeah, exactly. So that's happened a few times, but I'm just like, yeah, whatever.
Whatever.
As long as it's not literal shit, then it's all good. So.
There's I can't remember what show that was, but it was at the Neptune. This gal, as the photographers were leaving after the third song, she's like, "Yeah, get out of here! You've been in my way." And I was just like, whatever. We're just trying to do our job. We're trying to duck and we're trying to move. But I get it. You got there probably really early, stood outside on 45th Avenue, so you can get right there on the rail, and then there's some fucking head in front of you. I get it. So I'm not. If I could coexist with not doing this and still doing my job, I would. But sorry.
Yeah, I've only had one person give me a riffraff at a show, and it was at the fair a couple years ago, and it was I think it was opening night. I think it was one of the first nights of the fair. It was I know what it was. It was Styx that I think they were playing, and they had Ann Wilson opening up for them. And while Ann was playing, this dude was just like, he was throwing all kinds of F-bombs at me, and he's like, "Get out of the way. I paid a lot of money to be here, and I'm going to beat your ass if you don't move." And I finally just turned around like, "Dude, you're talking to the wrong person, man. You don't want to talk to me like that." And he was I don't want to rip on him, but he just looked out of shape. I'm like, you trying to throwing swings at me, dude. All I have to do is juke and jive, man. You'll be tired. And plus, that's another reason why you get in good with security folks, because if people do give you riffraff, you just have to point to the security guard. Hey, that guy's giving me a hard time. They'll go over, talk to him the first time. The second time, they'll just throw that person out. So I don't ever worry about stuff like that. If people want to accost me at shows, so be it. I'm not worried about it. I'll never see him again once I leave the pit. So that's okay.
Yeah. And also, like, in particular in your case, with your background and your training, you can handle yourself if it gets to that point. Hopefully it doesn't. Right.
Yeah. And so, I mean, I try to tell people I train to not fight. I don't want to get into any fights with anybody. Doesn't do anybody any good. I mean, what's the point? I mean, end up in jail? No, thank you. So.
Right. Because you said you're a black belt, right?
Yes. I started training jiu-jitsu in 2005. I got my black belt in 2015. And, in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, the first 3 stripes that you get come in 3-year increments. So this coming February, I'll have my 3rd stripe. So I'll have been a black belt for 9 years. Then I've got there in 5-year increments after that. So,
wow.
So yeah, I mean, as long as you're consistent and your instructor thinks that you've been showing up to class and putting in the time, you'll get promoted. Unlike the earlier ranks, which are for adults, it's white, blue, purple, and brown. There's 4 levels in each rank before you get promoted to the next color. So those can come anytime. Whereas with black belts, they have certain rules and guidelines. So,
okay.
And that's one of the hobbies I've kind of put on the back burner to make time for other things, primarily because I got hurt. I had stenosis in my back, and I had surgery. This coming March will be 2 years ago. And it was giving me a lot of problems, and I finally got it all taken care of. I mean, don't get me wrong. I still love Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I love going to Jiu-Jitsu. I just don't go as often because I have other things going on. Plus, my son Zach trains. He's a purple belt. If he goes to train, I go to train with him just because it's our thing. And I really would like for us to be my coach's first father-son black belt team, so to speak. So I mean, he's got lots of black belts, but it would be great to be his first father-son black belts. So that'd be awesome.
Yeah, no, that'd be awesome for your coach, obviously, for both of you and father and son. And correct me if I'm wrong, having that level of black belt in jiu-jitsu, aren't you considered a lethal weapon?
No, not at all. Not at all. No. That is such a far-fetched freaking myth. I don't know where that came from. I don't know how it started. And no, it's not true. And my hands are registered lethal. No, you're not. No, they're not. Takes one person with a gun to show you how lethal you really are. Not very. Just like when I go ride my bike, people get pissed off at car drivers, like, well, it doesn't really matter who's right or wrong. 7,000-pound vehicle versus me. I'm not going to win, man. Just do what you got to do. Just leave me alone. I'm on my bike ride. Leave me alone.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the cold, harsh reality of it when you look at this. And before we kind of wrap this up, my cousin who moved down to San Diego was riding competitively, cycling competitively. I think he was with the Audi team, if I remember right, up here.
Oh, nice.
And so he knows probably the same people that you probably know through writing circles and seeing people at all these different events. And I think I may have even asked you this one time in person, but is that something down the road where you're going to try to be like a competitive cyclist?
No, I don't think so. I tried mentioning earlier that I try to put like small attainable goals for me to try to accomplish on a year-to-year thing. Like next year, I'll come up with a whole bunch of new goals for 2026. The goals I have for this year were like to ride the Seattle to Portland in one day and to accumulate 7,000 miles for the entire year. Last year, my goals after getting my back taken care of, it's funny. There's an event in Kansas. It's called Gravel Unbound, and they have a 25, a 50, 100 mile, 200, and 350 mile courses that you can race. I'm like, I'll never do something like that. And this is back in, I don't know, 2021 or something. I'll never do something like that. And last year I did the 100-mile race. So that was one of my goals for the year. So I think for next year, I'll probably do the 200. We'll see. But no, I don't think I'm ever going to be that competitive. But like I said earlier, it's me against myself. If I just put these goals out there that I want to achieve, it keeps me motivated to keep doing what I want to keep doing and staying fit and staying active and leading a good example for my friends and family. Because again, I see people who are our age and they look like they're 85. And it's like, dude, if you just took better care of yourself, you feel and look so much better. And that's one thing that people don't understand. I mean, man, I can't believe you spent $5,000 on a bike. Well, I can't believe you're spending $5,000 on a medical bill that could have just been easily prevented. I mean, there's a lot of give and take. So I look at it as an investment in myself and in my health, as opposed to spending money on stuff that I'm never going to use again. I mean, camera gear is the same way. You know, people buy and spend thousands of dollars on a camera. Whether they learn to use it or not, it's up to them. So that's why I don't try to brag about the stuff that I do. I let people find out organically through like social media posts or whatever the case may be. And luckily I've been very fortunate to get ambassadorships and sponsorships out of riding. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that because of my age, people are like, well, you're 55 and you've dropped 125 to 130 pounds through cycling and you still maintaining, your health and fitness, and you're setting an example for others. We want to be able to provide you with this, that, and the other. And some of it's cool. Some of it's not so great, but you gotta be thankful for the opportunities that you're given. And that's exactly where I'm at right now. Just everything's still, perpetual motion. Everything's still churning. And I don't lead a boring life. I'm really happy at the moment. I'm really happy that I'm so active, and my days are always full with stuff to do. So I'm really, really fortunate. I'm really, really lucky. So.
Well, I'm very happy for you.
Thank you.
Yeah. And
because when you first met me, I was pretty miserable. Zach was going through all this cancer stuff and I wasn't in very good health, and I was working at a job that wasn't very appreciative of its employees, even though we were building cool stuff. And now it's a complete opposite. I mean, my kids are healthy and happy. I'm much healthier and happy. My relationships with my friends have gotten better. I've learned to keep my circle of friends a little bit smaller, so that way I don't have to worry about who are my friends and who are just pretending to be my friends and getting the best out of me and taking advantage of that. And so for the most part, it's just the last 5 years have been pretty tremendous. The last 2 years especially have been pretty awesome. So I am really happy. I'm really grateful. So.
Yeah, no, and as you said earlier, which is so true, you put in the work for yourself. You set these goals for yourself, not compared to this person, this person, this person. This is what you wanted to do to improve your health, improve everything else that you have going on, and it starts to spread into the other aspects of your life. And I've lost a large amount of weight 2 different times in my life. And when the whole thing, when the clothes doesn't fit, you start putting on smaller size clothes and everything else, and you even just kind of look in the mirror differently at yourself. Like on one hand, it's like, I can't believe I did this. On the other hand, it's like, no, I put in the work to look like this.
Absolutely.
And so I should take, I'm going to take the credit. It's okay if I take the credit because I'm the one who did all this. No one else did it for me.
Right.
And I see somebody ask really quickly, for you, Mike, what's your next adventure? So I don't know if they mean cycling or just kind of in general. What do you have coming up in the next 6 months?
Well, right now, fortunately, all my big events are over with. I'm just going to continue to try and pick away at that 7,000 mile goal I have for the year. That's in regards to cycling. I have lots of friends who like to ride. So one of the few things we're going to try and do this fall is getting out into the forest and do some more gravel riding, because being out in Mother Nature's is absolute. The concrete jungle is fine. That's great if you want to get in good miles. But if you really want to get a really good experience, going out in the middle of the Snoqualmie forest and just riding for 20, 30 miles, amazing. Absolutely amazing. In regards to my personal life, I don't have a whole lot going on. I mean, I got friends and family that I like to hang out with, and nothing's changed so far. I've gotten more into hiking with some friends that I've met recently, doing a lot more camping, just getting out and about and enjoying nature. In regards to photography, I'm hoping that the website that I'm putting up, PNWMusicPhoto.com, gets a little bit of traction, because I do miss going to shows. I haven't really shot a whole lot of shows. I think I've only shot like 2 or 3 this year. The last big show I shot, where it had a lot of good fanfare, was last August, when Falling in Reverse and Black Veil Brides came to White River Amphitheater. Not saying that any of the shows I shot this year were small. I mean, I shot Brad Paisley at Angel of the Winds a couple months ago. That was a great show. But I just want to get back on track to try and doing a couple, maybe 3 or 4 shows a month, and doing some interviews and whatnot. So we'll see how that goes. Other than that, not a whole lot else going on. I mean, just going to visit my dad in California, because he's getting up there in age, and learning to appreciate the time that I have left with him. And so I got to take advantage of that. So yeah, so that's pretty much it for the next 6 months. January, all starts all over again. So new goals and new achievements to try and obtain.
Okay, well, what you just described still sounds like a heck of a lot. So you're doing plenty.
Yeah, and then trying to work an 8 to 5 job on top of that as well. So yeah, I get it.
Yeah, no, we're in similar boats.
Yeah, absolutely. But if it's not on my calendar, it doesn't exist. So if people are like, hey, we were supposed to do this. Well, you never sent me a reminder. I didn't put it on my calendar. I thought it was just.
It was just in the talking stages. I wasn't committed to it yet.
Right. Exactly. Well, I hadn't committed anything yet. You didn't send me the reminder.
Well, Mike, again, it's Pacific Northwest Music Photo, everybody. And thank you so much for taking the time. It was great catching up with you and talking with you about your background and everything else you have going on. And hopefully I'll run into you in a photo pit, before this year is out. I haven't shot one show this year, but I've been at many, but I just haven't shot one.
I got you.
So we'll see if we cross paths.
I'm sure we will. I mean, we've known each other for a decade now, and you've always been really good to me. And I really appreciate the support you've given me over the years. And, you've always been really, like I said, you've always treated me well. And I think I've done the same for you. And like I said, I try to keep the lines of communication open with everybody, regardless of how well I know them or not. And, I'm just looking forward to the next chapter, and I hope to see you at some more shows as well. I know you've been really busy doing your interviews and your reviews of movies and plays and all that good stuff, which I think is great. That's a niche not a whole lot of people have around here or in general. And I'm glad you took the reins and went with it. So good for you.
Well, I appreciate it. Yeah, and I feel exactly the same way. It's been likewise. It's been a mutual friendship, and started off as a working relationship at all these shows, and just got to know you better. And you've always shot it straight with me, which I always appreciate from anybody. There's never been anything that I have nothing but good things to say about you. So it's always been a pleasure. And I'll see you sooner than later for sure.
I appreciate it, Mark. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. Thanks.
Absolutely. Take care, everybody. Have a good day.